saying, "What have you done?" And he basically looked at him and said, "What the hell do you think we've done? Why do you think they're able to fight? We've trained them and we've given them the weapons." That's what's happening. Look, thanks. Bravery, the grit, and the fighting spirit of the Ukrainian people, Russia has already failed in its initial war aims. Russia wanted to take Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv, and topple its democracy and elected government. Today, it still stands, and that government still presides. This fight is far from over. Here's the point. This war can continue for a long time, but the United States will continue to support the Ukrainian people in the fight for freedom. And I just want you to know that. And by the way, if I got to go to war, I'm going with you guys. I tell you. I mean it. I want to talk about what I'm here today to talk about. You women and men and the American union movement. Remember, you know, when the Fair Labor Standards Act was first passed, it didn't say that. It says we should have more unions. We should. American labor, the building trades unions. President McGarvey, Dad, Jack, where are you, Jack? I tell you what, Dad, as they say in Southern Delaware, you done good with this boy. And you know, I just know Jack's a Philadelphia guy. You know what? I just asked Sean, I said, where? He said, well, he's down the shore. Now, if you're from Philadelphia or Jersey, you go to the shore. If you're from northern Delaware, you go to the shore. A little bit further south, you go to the beach. You can always tell where someone's from. And Dad, I asked whether or not you, like my wife Jill is from Philly, still talks about Broad Street, the Broad Street one. You know, you see? And, you know, Jeet, yet, you know. I had to learn to speak Philadelphian when I got married. But Dad is a distance here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Look. It's good to be with you all, and I mean that. Whole expression, as I said earlier, you go home with them that brought you to the dance. And you folks brought me to the dance. And the people who brought me to the dance were union workers, not just workers, union workers. IBW, iron workers, boilermakers, teamsters, laborers, bricklayers, masons, plumbers and pipe fitters, painters, plasterers, roofers, operating engineers, steel metal workers, represented in this room, and so many more who are not in the building trades that are union members across the country. I want to thank you for what you did to support my election this last time out. I remember down here a little further to the right when I refused to, I wasn't going to introduce my climate plan until I decided I was going to speak to a guy from the IBW. I wanted to make sure you all knew what I was doing and why it not only was good for the environment, but good for labor. And I sat down with that guy right there, and he thought about it, and you all stepped up. And I mean it sincerely. You're probably the biggest reason why I'm standing here today. I've never forgotten not only what you've done for me, but what you've done for this country. You're the ones who literally built this country, and that's not hyperbole. And you heard it 1,000 times when I was running for office, that we're going to build this economy, not from the top, from the middle up and out. That's how you build America. Because we know that when the middle class does well, the poor have a way up and the wealthy are just fine. And that's exactly what we're doing. And by the way, there is a middle class is because of unions. Unions. Fact. Unions. That's a fact. That's true. And look. Not only to provide a good living, but what you do more than anything else, my dad used to say, you allow people to have dignity, the dignity of their work, to be treated with respect, rebuild the economy. Before I did anything, as I said, I talked to you. I laid out my plan for economic growth. I talked with a lot of the folks sitting behind me here and others. in the union movement. It was a darn good plan. And look at the results. Our economy created 431,000 jobs in March. 7.9 million since I became. More jobs in 14 months than any president in the history of America has ever created because of you. Unemployment's down to 3.6% from 6.4%. When it's a decline in unemployment to the start of the term of a president ever recorded because of you. And the economy grew 5.7% last year, the fastest growth in 40 years. I know people are still hurting. I'm not. As my dad would say, every time that price of the gas went up at the pump, guess what? It was a conversation at our kitchen table. It mattered. It affected outcomes. It affected what we did. But in the process, by $360 billion last year. And it's been a long, tough stretch, but Americans are back to work. Our economy has gone from being on the mend to being on the move. It started with the rescue plan. When I took office in the midst of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. You all remember the lines of cars stretching for miles, waiting for a box of food to be put in their trunk. Not just poor folks, folks who have a box of food. Because the American Rescue Plan helped 41 million Americans put food on their table. Because of the American Rescue Plan, we helped keep a roof over the heads of 4 million people. When you helped get that plan passed, 4 million people were on the verge of being evicted from their homes and apartments. That's a fact. 4 million. The rescue plan put money in the pockets of hardworking Americans who thought, through no fault of their own, were in trouble, giving families what my dad used to call just a little bit of breathing room. Because of the rescue plan, we had the best year of state and local growth in 20 years, adding back 467,000 jobs, and educators, police officers who were laid off got back in the job. You made a gigantic difference. In addition, because of the rescue plan, 320,000 last year. 320,000. You're building America again. I meant what I said. We're the only nation in the world that's come out of every serious problem we've had stronger than. And there are now more construction jobs today than we had before the pandemic. And leading financial firm, Moody's, Wall Street, estimates that because of the rescue plan, 4 million more jobs were created, 2% lower than it would have been had we failed to act. But look, that wasn't all we did to the rescue plan. We also included the law called the Butch-Lewis Act. You know what it is, most people don't. To ensure that as we rebuild America, we upheld a promise. A promise. Dignified retirement for millions of workers and retirees all across America, protecting pensions. You all worked so damn hard for, you sacrificed to secure. And it didn't stop there. We can't compete for the jobs of the 21st century if you don't fix our infrastructure. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. You know, and now, not only is it infrastructure week, it's infrastructure decade. Infrastructure decade. No, for real. Already. Already, as all of you know, we've announced nearly $5 billion to improve 3,000 airports across 50 states. We've announced $5 billion, including $650 million this year alone. So Lonnie Stevens and the IBW can get to work building a national network of electric vehicle charging stations. We've announced $4.7 billion to cap and plug hundreds of thousands of orphan wells and gas wells spewing methane into the air, creating jobs as good as dug those wells got paid in the first place. Same folks. Nearly $17 billion for ports, waterways, and dams. 700 projects. $52.5 billion for highways and road repairs this year. $5.4 billion for bridges this year. The I-5 bridge over Columbia River in Washington. The I-95 bridge in West Haven, Connecticut. The Jefferson Highway. US 61 East Baton Rouge Parish in Louisiana. The list goes on. Not only that, We're getting rid of poisonous lead pipes in 10 million homes and 400,000 schools and child care centers. So kids and families can have drinking water that doesn't poison them. Look, folks, this is America, the United States of America. We're investing $5 billion to deliver affordable high-speed internet everywhere in America, urban, rural, suburban, tribal communities. You can't be a country where a mother has to pull with her child up in her car's parking lot to connect to an internet so the kid can do their homework. I mean, think about that. It's the United States of America. Look, this law puts an end to that. Thousands of jobs doing it, good paying jobs. And look, what this means for all of you is jobs, good paying union jobs you can raise a family on, jobs you can't be outsourced. This is about more than rebuilding our infrastructure. It's about rebuilding our middle class. I'm so sick and tired. I was raised by a dad who, when things would go bad, I remember we weren't poor, but we lived in a 3-bedroom split little house with 4 kids and a grandpa living with us. And looking back on it, we thought it was great. My mom and dad thought about it. And I remember one night, true story. Remember on my headboard, the bunk bed I was in, we had 2 sets of bunks in our room. It was up against the wall that divided between my mom's bedroom and ours. And I could tell my dad was restless. I could hear him. And I asked my mom the next morning, what was the matter? He said, he just found out he lost insurance, honey. We lost our insurance. Well, guess what? You are the ones who keep millions of people from losing their insurance. Unions built the middle class. We have us. That's why we made sure that the infrastructure law included significant labor protections. For example, the overwhelming majority of the funds included in this law are subject to And by the way, as you may remember, when the president asked me to do the Recovery Act back in our administration, the previous one, we didn't do any you guys didn't do. If they wanted the money, they had to show me that they were doing it and prevailing wage. As you know, that means folks who are rebuilding the country are going to earn a prevailing wage now. And by the way, the Labor Department, led by a proud former president of the Labor's Union 220, Marty Walsh. Good man. If I'm in a foxhole, I want Marty next to me. Look, he recently proposed a new regulation to strengthen preventing the law does is help expand registered apprenticeships. Wasn't it wonderful when business said, don't worry, we'll do the apprenticeships? Wasn't that a great, generous thing for them to do early on? Well, come on, man. Unionships that allow workers to earn while they learn, that matters. Because laying a strong foundation for the future of this country is about more than having strong roads and bridges, ports, and airports.